insurance, which is what we're going to talk about next. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to bring up my lovely girlfriend, Miss Caitlin Weaver. And Caitlin, if you don't know, she's got her, I'm going to let her talk about her stuff here. I forgot to finish. My bad. We're gonna skip the rest of my stuff. All right. So Caitlin has, she's got her own rentals. She's been an insurance agent for a long time. She knows a ton about this stuff, and she really helped me. I mean, we used to spend the night here when we first started. When we first bought this place, we'd spend the night on an air mattress in the back. Be here until midnight, hanging cords and running stuff, and then we'd be up at Exchangers the next morning. And we did that for probably months. So she's been every bit a part of all of this as I have. Let's give her a round of applause. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good evening. So, wow, it's intimidating up here. There's no children here, so basically we want to protect ourselves, right? Are you okay? I was like, are you doing the same? What did you say, Andy?
I was asking him if he was going to give you the clicker.
Yes, I was going to say I need the next line. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, I've been in insurance since 2013. I basically helped out my mom. She opened up her own brokerage after being with farmers, and just figured out it'd be a lot easier to run a business with multiple options as a brokerage, not just one product. So I helped her out while going to college, and I needed a job, so that worked out pretty well. So I was going to college full time and then would help out when I could. And learned a lot. I probably wouldn't have gotten insurance if it wasn't for my mom, so definitely that's why I did it. After I got licensed in 2016, I got my life insurance license after that. So basically by that I mean I had my property license, which means I could sell home and car insurance and commercial if you own a business. And then I went back and got my life and health, which means I could sell life insurance and health insurance. Because I was really passionate about life insurance, and I still am. So I have both licenses still. So then I tried doing finance, wanted to be a financial advisor, get my series licenses, have assets under management, but it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't. After that, I tried opening my own farmers agency. I did. I just did not want to do that because I learned that insurance really isn't for me, but I always love helping people, and I like explaining and solving problems, and especially explaining stuff in the high-risk area because I'm from the mountains, so can't really get fire insurance up there. So I basically had to hold the hand of my customers and just give them their options, and it's tough sometimes. But I learned throughout the years that, especially why I didn't follow through with farmers, is like financial independence is the ultimate goal here, and if I did insurance, I'm probably just going to be a producer, which means I'll always be working. My office doesn't run without me because I'm the producer. Even if I trained agents and they worked with me, I would still be ultimately responsible. So, and I'm seeing that with my mom's business right now as well. So I'm learning, what's important here, which is financial independence. So, just a little bit, yes. So I think we're all learning that. So that's a little bit about myself. And I've also learned that what's the one thing you don't want to buy but have to, and that's insurance sometimes. So I had to sell a product basically that nobody wants to really buy, but it is mandatory, especially in the state of California, for your auto, and of course if you own a home. I know other investors talk about being self-insured and all that good stuff, but let's face it, we do want to protect our assets. So, also, so going into real estate, we do need a team of people. It's not just us as investors. We need real estate agents, we need escrow, we need attorneys, we need accountants, tax advisors, lenders, etc. Property management if you don't manage your own rentals. But you also need your insurance agent, which is part of your team. So if you haven't found this out or you're just getting into this, I would say definitely look at your options, see who's in your circle, and just call around. Sometimes you have multiple agents on your team, you know? So yeah, it's important. Me and Rich are kind of figuring that out right now, like when we're getting the next property, like, okay, we need to insure it. And he has his agent as well, and then I also go through my mom, which it helps having options too. You know, you don't have to just go with one agent. Same with Angela and Evan, my other business, and they have multiple agents as well. So have a good relationship. Make sure you can ask questions and they know what they're talking about and they can explain it to you. And it's important. You want to know what you're getting into. Because like, what's really covered in home insurance? Even though you have your coverages there, you have, you know, dwelling, which is the actual property. You have all, basically coverage A through F, but what's actually covered? Like what's actually covered by insurance? That's the main important thing to ask. And in most insurance policies, let's be honest, they're not actually going to tell you what is covered. They're usually going to list what's not covered. So you're going to see a lot of exclusions, a lot of stuff that isn't covered in a normal policy, etc. And I'll go through that as well. So I'm going to go through the basics because I don't have much time. But basically, if you are going to buy a house or you are a homeowner or you own multiple rentals, it's super important to just understand coverage in general. So dwelling is the structure itself, it's the house, and it's covering for damage against covered perils, which is important. So peril is the cause of loss. So cause of loss could be fire, windstorm, flood, tornado, earthquake, etc. So most home policies cover windstorm and hail and fire, but you might have thought, oh well, I have flood coverage as well, but it doesn't work that way sometimes. So just understanding what's actually covered, which is the actual perils as well. Some of you might know this already, so I'm just going over the basics here. And then other structures it's usually not included unless you actually need it, like you have a detached shed, a detached garage, sometimes landscape. So if you have really nice concrete stairs or you have an actual nice landscape. We're not used to landscape as much in mountains because we usually just, usually it's natural. I mean, we don't really have a lot of plants because it's a high fire area, and it just depends. So this would also include fences, anything that's not detached or attached to the house, anything that's detached. So this could be a pool occasionally. It could be multiple things. So just mention it. Just say, hey, I have a shed. It's worth $10,000. Is it worth covering? Sometimes it's not worth the extra cost. So you're like, I have $10,000. I'll gamble with the loss. Depends. Some people do it. I say that because, especially in the fire area, we're just trying to mitigate the costs. We have a very high cost for everything. Insurance, taxes, it all adds up, so we just try to save money. You have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like for example, with your guys' house during the storm, the garage collapsed.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of, is that another structure? And then
Yeah, that's important.
So that was insured, and like how did that whole, I mean like the example of that, I guess.
Yeah, that's important. So most home policies you guys have down here, down the mountain, are going to include separate structures, which is usually 10%. So if your house is only covered at $200,000, because again, replacement costs and rebuilding costs are different. So you could own a little 800 square foot house by the beach and it's worth $1 million, but that doesn't mean it's going to be rebuilt for $1 million. You know what I mean? It's going to be built for $250,000, $300,000. So that's what I try to tell my clients, like, okay, remember this. So basically what I'm trying to get at is if the max dwelling was $250,000 and you only have 10% of that, which is $25,000, but your garage is worth $40,000, then they're only going to pay out at the 10%. So luckily, yes, in that example, the policy covered $35,000, just 10% or something like that. So it was enough to cover it. What's important about that loss was what caused the loss, which was weight of snow. Yeah. So because of the cause was weight of snow, it was on a particular policy, because we have 2 policies in the mountain. If anybody owns the mountain, they know. So it's like, yeah, it's figuring out, oh, is it covered on this policy or this policy? Yeah, good.
So wouldn't that be considered like an act of God?
That's where it gets sticky. No, there's no such thing. So no such thing as act of God in insurance. Remember, if you hit anything, it hit you. So the deer hit you, the rock hit you, and the car. Seriously, when you're making a claim, you don't want to say, oh, it was an act of God and it fell and I hit it. So it's all about how you explain the loss. We usually don't explain it like an act of God. Even though it was weather and it was like a once in a lifetime blizzard of 8 feet of snow. It was crazy. But yeah, we usually don't say that. It's just, ask your agent. I would just, how do I explain the claim, even though it's a natural cause like snow and weather? There is actually a covered peril in the policy that is actually listed as weight of snow, weight of ice or snow. So it's actually a coverage. So yeah, it's just also the language you use when you're making a claim, that's very important. And yeah, so if you have like extra landscape that you just put a bunch of money into, maybe just make sure you're covered, protected. Or a detached garage, make sure you have the actual adequate coverage. Coverage C, this is important if you own your own house and you're covering your own stuff and you have a lot of furniture and personal belongings. And again, it can be a maximum of 50% of your dwelling coverage. So if your house is covered at $500,000, you can have up to $250,000 of personal stuff. That's important if you have a lot of nice furniture, rooms, stuff. If you do have nicer stuff like guns, fine art, jewelry, furs, stuff like that, I would itemize it if you want the exact value. If you don't itemize the exact value, then you will get paid out minus depreciation. So it's just learning this stuff. Like especially if it's a wedding ring, and you want to insure that, I would insure it at the value. It does have to be appraised, etc., etc. So that's just simple stuff. An important thing for landlords though is nothing is covered of your tenants. So we always disclose that, like nothing is covered if it burns or if it's water damage, it's not covered. So we do recommend getting a renter's policy to all of our tenants, or residents. Oops. Loss of use is important as well for your primary and for your rentals. So loss of use is if you don't have family to stay with or other houses or an RV, then you need somewhere to stay. You can't live in your house. So it basically pays out a certain amount monthly to either stay in a hotel or Airbnb. This is where you get sometimes calls if you have rentals and they're like, I have an insurance person who's staying. So the insurance company is paying for them to stay and they basically want to stay at your house. So this is just important. I usually tell my clients, or in the past, is just divide the full amount by 24 months. So you're usually living somewhere 2 years if your house is being rebuilt, or if you're looking for another house, if you're getting a payout, simple stuff like that. Rental loss of rents is different, so just ask your agent. We found out the hard way that rental loss of rents was divided by a certain amount of months. So we thought we had $24,000 to be paid out, but since it was only a 3-month loss, we only got paid out $6,000 because they divided by 12. It's only $2,000 per month. Anyway, learning lesson. Just ask your agent about that. And then liability, I believe this is the most important coverage because this is actually what's protecting your assets. If you own a business, if you own a house, even on your car, this is actually the main coverage that you're getting when you have car insurance. And It just protects you from being sued, protects you from anything you're liable for. This is protection for others, so it doesn't actually protect your stuff, but it protects others from basically suing you and everything like that. Yeah.
Is this the one, I know we had a conversation a while back about having a lot of housing providers don't have liability insurance, and you're saying that was the most important one? I think that's what you told me. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So this is yes, that might have been about a certain type of liability. So this is personal liability. This is usually on your personal home, your primary. There is a separate liability coverage that you should add, which I think I have that in another slide. But yeah, it's called personal injury. Yeah.
What do you use to cover yourself in case your tenant's dog bites anybody?
That would be liability. And
What was the question?
what would cover you if your tenant's dog bites somebody? Which you want to have renter's insurance required from your tenant. If there's any animal, I require animal liability. Because yeah.
Do you ask them to make you additionally insured on their policy?
Yes. Yeah, I recommended it to my tenant, and I didn't even know he got it, but I got his policy in the mail because I was listed as an additional insured. I was like, great, I don't have to worry about it now. He does have a dog, so he has liability, he has his stuff covered. That's all he needs. Yeah.
So with your own renter's insurance on your house, is there an additional fee to add that liability, or is it inclusive?
I don't add animal liability if I know my tenants have dogs because they're not my dogs. But if you do have a primary house and you have a dog at your primary, they do like to disclose if you have your own dog because bites are a factor, or just, stuff happens. Other dogs may come around, stuff happens. But I do not disclose if my tenants have dogs, no. We just hope for the best. This is why we have coverage if anything happens. Even though the tenants are responsible for having their coverage and having their own liability, we are ultimately responsible as the homeowner. Anybody can come after us if it's on our property, which is sad, but it is what it is. It's California as well, so it is what it is. Yeah, that's the risk we're taking when we're letting people live in our house. But we just hope for the best, and that's why, like I said, why we have insurance. The main thing with liability is look at the exclusions. So actually, some dog breeds are excluded. So, which is sad, but you might have to purchase a different insurance rider to cover the breed. It could be like Great Danes, pit bulls. It could be even German shepherds. It depends on the company. So yeah, definitely ask your agent or your company. Read the fine print. I usually get the PDF and I do Control F and I put exclusions for dog breeds, and then yeah. Yes.
Somebody breaks into your house and gets hurt, can he sue you?
Yes.
Is that covered under liability?
Yes. Yeah. So, and the insurance company will fight for you. They will get charged with theft. But they can sue you for their injuries. It's sad. Or if someone's trespassing and they break their leg on your property, they can sue you. But we have liability, and this is usually the representative of the insurance company represents you. And yeah, that's really important for your rentals too. Just make sure you're at least carrying 500,000 or $1 million. On your primary, 300 is average or most common. Yeah.
What's your question about if someone robs you, or was it if someone's working at your home?
No, if someone, she said actually if someone breaks into your house and gets hurt.
What about a handyman that's working at your house and they fall off your roof or whatever?
No coverage. That's workers' comp. Yeah, so this is why it's very important to have insurance.
Yes.
So whoever's working on your house needs to have insurance. The only time your primary would kick in for workers is if you have a repetitive worker, such as a gardener or a maid. or like a house cleaning lady. It's sticky. Ask your agent. So like if you have a house cleaner that comes once a month or a landscape person, sometimes you can add them to the policy, but you have to add them as a coverage because you know they're going to be there once a month, so they're like, kind of like working for you. Yes.
It's been about 6 years since I actually read my policies like I should.
Yeah. You should probably come call me.
Farrah's landlord policy used to cover incidental workers' comp.
That's exactly it. Incidental, probably capped at a certain amount. Yeah.
For that
Yeah.
occasional handyman falling off the roof.
There you go, occasional. So there's different coverages. It just, read your policy, definitely. Or have your agent explain it to you. Say, can you find out from this company? Because it's important to me. I have someone coming to paint, and they'll probably say no or yes. It just
And make sure they're licensed and bonded also.
Exactly. So if they're licensed and bonded, they're most likely going to have their own insurance. Sometimes you can make them get a certificate of insurance to just list you as the homeowner. There's a lot of different ways to protect yourself. Just ask your agent. Again, this is why it's super important to have a good relationship. So hopefully they know what they're talking about and they're going to basically shop around for you if stuff goes haywire, and they should help explain the claim. But ultimately, you are responsible for making claims because you're the one that saw it. You're the one that knows the most. They're not going to really be able to explain it as well. So, but they'll point you in the right direction. Medical payments is a smaller coverage, so this would fall under like if someone gets hurt on your property and you just want to pay out their medical bill quick, so that you don't have to go into a lawsuit. So this is important coverage. It's usually only $1,000 or $2,000 limit, up to $5,000 or $10,000. So I recommend raising it. It's really not that much more a year. Okay, so this is the one Farrah brought up. So I recommend asking your agent again. What do I have as a landlord that I probably should have? And that's personal injury is one of them. Personal injury is when they could come back and basically say, you caused slander or emotional abuse, something that's ongoing that you have to keep paying for. It isn't a physical loss, like a physical injury, but it's like still an ongoing thing that you have to pay for. It kind of explains it here, but I would recommend Googling it yourself, asking your agent. I always have it on my my policies as a landlord. And then as a homeowner, if you're thinking about buying soon or you own your own house, these are additional coverages that are not included in a regular home policy. That would be water backup. That's if water backs up from the outside of the house in, usually from like the drains and the toilets. I always get that because you never know what could happen. Equipment breakdowns, like if you don't have a home warranty and you want to cover your water heater or your just equipment in the home. And then, like I said earlier, scheduled personal property is like if you own a really expensive ring, just insure the ring. It's a couple $100 a year. If it gets stolen or lost, depending on the covered loss, you'll get paid out at the value of the appraisal that you submit. Did you have a question, Ryan?
Yeah, could you please go back one slide? I missed a couple things in there.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so, like I said, so the other example is like cyberbullying. That's a thing, yeah. So personal injuries, like if someone says, oh, well, you hurt my feelings, you're slandering me, you're what's it called, neglecting not to be a tenant, something like that, I don't know. Yeah, picking on me, etc. Yeah.
You use the wrong pronoun.
Exactly. So yes, just extras, and your agent should honestly be recommending this already. If they're not, just ask them. Say, hey, I heard about personal injury, can I add it? How much is it? It's usually like $20. It depends, it just depends. So again, the scheduled personal property, if you have like a fine art or like a super old rustic gun, that you want to insure, I recommend just getting it itemized. It'll be, you submit the appraisal, you pay for it, you're good. And then another thing you should consider if you own a house or you own a business is umbrella insurance, which is like a blanket policy. It basically just covers everything. Do you have a question?
Yeah, the umbrella insurance.
Yeah.
Will that be good instead of getting the other policies? Or do you have to have the other policies from the previous age?
You do have to have the other policies. It depends on the policy though. So standalone umbrella, you do have to have a current liability policy in place in order for the umbrella to be effective. So basically, once your liability exhausts, so let's say you only have $300,000 of liability, but you're getting sued for $500,000 or whatever it is, that's when the umbrella kicks in as excess coverage and protects you from, them seizing your assets, etc. There is a certain umbrella or a certain liability policy that you can buy where you don't have to have liability. It just depends what the situation is. So if you have 5 mobile homes and you only want to carry fire insurance on 5 of them, or on all 5, but you don't want to carry 5 liability policies, you can have one master liability policy and list all 5 properties. So it just depends. It depends. Yeah, it depends. So yeah, I recommend that. You can carry $1 million on all your properties, or you can carry a lower amount and just get $1 million umbrella, and then you have $1 million. You can get a $5 million umbrella. It just really depends. And something I like to always remind people is flood insurance and earthquake insurance are not covered. Yes.
The first car insurance I bought, and that was many years ago, there was a minimum amount that you were supposed to have.
Yes.
But my agent said, no, if you want to double that amount, that second amount doesn't cost nearly as much as the first. But if it's just the minimum, sometimes the insurance company will figure, well, there's not much of a chance of winning, so they'll just go ahead and pay because it'll cost more for lawyers and et cetera. But he said if you double that and they're going to have to pay more, then they're going to be willing to fight more to protect your interests.
True.
So
yes.
Just get the cheapest, get enough to cover it.
Yes, it depends. Definitely, car insurance is a whole different story. That's definitely what you want to look at as well. Like Wynn said, there's the state minimum limits, and then there's the higher limits that I recommend as well. But yes.
So say for example, on your property, if you put up signs for no trespassing, and does that protect you? If someone, say, you have acreage and someone's cutting through your acreage and they happen to get hurt?
Yes, so yes, I do want to remind everybody I'm not an attorney or anything like that. I'm not giving legal advice. However, I forgot to disclose that because I am licensed. I am not giving any advice right now. However, yes, Google that. We found out from a friend that you do have to have the penal code and section on the posted no trespassing. So if you do have the penal code and section of the law, you're more likely to have more backup in court.
I know where you could order those too. Want to know?
Next part of that, the penal code on there. This is penal code, and then this is just what a friend who thinks he's a moonlighting attorney.
He's not.
So the guy knows his stuff for the most part, but I have no idea if this is real or not. He said if you put the penal code on it, if you have no trespassing sign and it doesn't have the penal code on it, it doesn't mean shit. Okay?
Yes.
If you put the penal
And
code
no
on
parking for towing.
it, and the penal code's on it, the sheriff will actually arrest him. Okay? So, big difference again, it can be totally full of shit. So, never verified. I just bought the ones with the penal code on it.
Yeah, so like Rich said, you'll have a better chance of the cops also responding if you have it listed, you know your rights, you know your laws as a homeowner, yeah, etc. Like I was saying, really quick, flood insurance and earthquake coverage are not included in a home policy. Those are separate policies. They're usually pretty expensive depending on where you're at, how big your house is. Flood insurance is determined on where you're in the flood zone, and then earthquake, it's iffy. Have your agent explain it to you. I don't have it on my houses, but a lot of people do buy earthquake before they buy an umbrella, and I'm just like, buy an umbrella. Earthquake's deductible is determined by a percentage amount, so the deductible is very high. So if you have a $300,000 house, you have 20% deductible, you have $60,000 deductible. So you're getting paid out minus a big deductible. Yeah, you can go as low as 10%, but the price is extremely high. Yeah. Yes.
Not expecting legal advice, but going back to the trespassing thing, I know that probably is specifically for residential, personal property, that, you know, residential. But what about, I know commercial is different, and because you're expecting people to come on, but what about during like closed periods when you're doing construction on a commercial site?
Ooh, yeah, so, well, that's a different type of policy. You should have a construction policy. It'll be commercial builder's risk. Usually a commercial policy will require it to be gated or fenced, like the rented fences you see.
I just wonder if we have to post a penal code on that one too.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would for sure. And you might get a better rate in your policy if you have like a drive-by security, or they want to know how often you're going to the site. They want to make sure it's not being empty day by day. Yeah. Yes.
Now, you said commercial construction, but if you're just doing construction on your flips,
Yeah.
that's still considered commercial construction?
No, not commercial.
Regular?
Yeah, just regular. So any single family home is just personal residential. Sometimes it can be a commercial policy if it's in a commercial entity,
Okay.
like a trust or a LLC. It gets really mixed around. That's why it's really important to disclose everything to your agent. Do not let them insure a house in your name if it's deeded in a trust. You need to have the trust on the policy. That's very important. Very, very important. If it's in a company name, like an LLC or a limited partnership or a corporation, that needs to be the name insured. And then of course you can have your name on it too because you're signing. But insurance companies will do anything they can to not pay out anything, not pay out the loss. Yes.
Do you add it as an additional insured, or do you have to replace if you have it turned into a trust?
If she asks if you need to add it as an additional insured, you can, but they're going to pay out to who's name insured. And if the name insured doesn't match the name on title, it might be difficult. I would do both. I would make sure my agent knows it's titled in my LLC, but I want to be an additional insured, or the LLC I want as an additional insured plus the note or the mortgage holder. Gets complicated, but definitely just let them know, like, it's titled in an LLC or trust. That actually happened in my experience. Is insurance company denied the claim because it was in an LLC, but the insurance policy was in his name. So it happens. It just depends on the company. They'll try to find anything not to pay out. Yes.
In college, my wife and I were living in a 21-foot house trailer, had an opportunity to move into a beautiful home. The owner was moving 200 miles away, and he said, we have to have somebody living here to keep the insurance in effect. So we got a beautiful place for a whole year.
Yes, that's another big thing. Insurance is not like vacant. So vacancy, you're either going to pay 4 times the amount of what you would usually pay if someone's living there. So you might as well just throw a renter in there, rent it out. Don't like vacant. It's a lot of risk. So if you do have an empty house and you're just buying it, just say it's my second home. It's not, nobody's living there full time, but I'm not living there primarily, so it's my second home, my vacation home. That's sometimes what you can do as an advice. Anyway, if you're interested in earthquake insurance, have your agent quote it. Depends on the price. Flood, I would just recommend if you're in a flood zone. You don't really need it in Cali. I mean, it is raining a lot, but you don't really need it. So yeah, this is just more on the umbrella. If you have questions, ask your agent. Say, hey, how much is it? It's usually a couple $100 a year.
Yep.
up to maybe $1,000 a year if you have a lot of assets. Like if you have 5 houses, an RV, a boat, 6 cars, probably going to be like $800 a year.
You can afford it if you have them.
Exactly. $800 a year is nothing from being protected from being sued. This also includes like if there's like a fatal accident that's caused and you're responsible. That also happened in my experience. So from someone's kid. So it's just protect yourself. Yeah. So how to save money since California is already really expensive, and I recommend this to the high-risk area people that I help. Just increase your deductible. You're gonna save money now, and you'll have a higher cost later. However, a lot of people think, oh, I need to come up with my $10,000 deductible, but you really don't. You're just gonna get paid out minus the deductible. So if the total payout's $30,000, you're gonna get paid out $20,000. So you are gonna pay for it. However, it makes more sense to just take the hit later. Unless you want to carry $1,000 deductible, that's fine. That's your choice. That's all. Remember, it's all about mitigating risks. It's whatever risk you want to take. If you have a lot of money now and you want to make the small claims, have a lower deductible. But where we live, we don't want to make claims, and we don't because we might not get insurance. We might not have an option. Lower the coverage you can. So I lower my personal property. I don't have anywhere near 50% of my dwelling because I don't want to pay for something that unless it's included, then you have to have it. But if it's not included, you could lower it and, help your costs. Like I said, avoid small claims, just like car insurance. We all get dinged, but really in homes, you get dinged the most if you have a lot of losses. Ditch risky items that might not be insurable, like, believe it or not, a treehouse is uninsurable for liability. They will exclude the treehouse. Trampoline is excluded. Playgrounds, yeah.
So a lot of times, what multifamily owners are doing now to attract people is putting in amenities, and a lot of times they put in things like barbecues, fire pits, playground equipment for kids, things like that. Is there any way to mitigate the risk and still have those types of things? Is there something that you can have them sign? Does that make any difference?
Usually an insurance company isn't going to accept a waiver for part of your property because, again, anybody could sue if they get hurt, especially if they have kids. Some insurances tolerate more risk. Some insurance companies don't. So I have one insurance company that I've worked with that they won't even cover you if you've had a loss in the last 7 years. They just don't want you. So it just depends. It really just depends. Did you have a question?
So the waiver is not effective?
No, unless it's the one time that might work is if it's a commercial policy, like let's say a gym is opening up and he has everybody sign a waiver, that might be required. It might not be an option. That's the only time I've seen a waiver be accepted if it's a business policy. Yeah. Not a home policy because they're the ones that will be getting the bill. The insurance company is taking the most risk in insuring the loss of liability. It's a tough one.
It was just a question because I had a party and I made everybody, it was a huge party.
At a house?
Yeah, it was my birthday. I made everybody sign a waiver before they came into my house.
That's perfect. I would get a day event insurance.
Yes, I didn't get extra insurance. I just had everybody sign the waiver. I downloaded it from the state of California. And I was so glad because somebody that I knew brought somebody I didn't know, and she was just having so much fun. She busted her face on the floor.
Yeah,
on the concrete.
That's another risk you take.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, and I leaned over. I said, did she sign the waiver? They're like, yeah, she did, and then we just went there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I didn't know that you're responsible.
Yeah.
You have a party, and they're at your party, and they get that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, my dad was mad when I threw a party in high school. Yes. Did you?
What's extra event insurance?
Okay, so special event insurance would be like if you're having a wedding, or if you're throwing a party, or it's just like a special occasion. Like people who host, we have like a wine walk up in Crestline, so they should have event insurance because they're liable for anybody walking around and tasting the wine. So basically, if you're having an event, like even a baby shower, a bridal shower, a baptism, depends on the facility. Some facilities require it before they'll let you use the facility, including this one.
How much does that go for?
A couple $100, depending on how much coverage you want, and if you're serving alcohol. Depends on the rate, how many people come out. Yes.
So we have a veterinary hospital, and I know we're insured up to wazoo, but is there any special insurance we should have? Because we're considering after hours having like puppy social events and things like that, where people come into the hospital, in the lobby, hang out, meet other people and their pets and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think I saw you take a picture of the personal injury. I would just make sure you should have that on your commercial policy.
We do.
I would make sure that your liability limits are a little bit higher than what's required. Like, it's usually 1 million, 2 million general aggregate. I would go up to 2 million.
They won't say anything if it's like, they won't try to get out of it saying like, oh, you had this after hours and...
I would disclose, I would ask, I would say, am I only covered during operating hours? Or what do I need to do to make sure I have coverage 24/7? Especially if you're caring for dogs or like you're holding them on site. That's another liability. So I would ask your agent. I would look through your policy as well. Yeah. I would look. Yeah, no problem. So anyway, so there's a lot of things you can look at the day of event insurance. But to mitigate your costs now, especially on your auto policy and your house policy, you could just raise your deductible. Get rid of the trampoline when the inspector comes around, then put it back up. The playground, it's hit or miss on the company. Look for additional discounts. So believe it or not, most home policies will offer you a discount if you have a monitored alarm system. So if you already have a monitored alarm, just get them a certificate, send it in, you get a couple $100 discount. Sometimes paperless billing works for your auto policy. You don't get charged $10 for billing. Or if you put it on auto pay, you don't get charged for billing. Just little stuff like that. Some companies will give you credit if you're like in the military or credit union, etc. Claim free is always good for any insurance. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, especially if you want to look over any policies, I definitely reviewed some people's policies here, so I don't mind answering questions. I don't really sell insurance anymore, but I definitely like to educate people on it, make sure they know what they're doing. Sometimes I'll tell them the price is great, the price seems a little high, whatever it is. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, we'll probably wait till the end. So, or if you want to partner on deals. I am in the Crestline area, so if you guys have anything up there, like fix and flips and holding them long term. And we're looking for partners to do like triplexes with ADUs, optimize cash flow, and then we'll split the equity. So, yeah. So yeah, we'll hold questions to the end. So I'm gonna bring Farrah back up, and then we're gonna introduce Andy.
Thank you, Caitlin. Wow, that was so much information and it's really good. I appreciate it. We'll leave that. So, because Andy has so much knowledge, like I said, I'm just gonna have some questions here that I'm gonna ask him, and whatever comes out is what you're gonna get. Oh.
I'm taking notes.
Is that a contract? It's on the...
Is this what I'm supposed to ask you?
That's things that...
Then you want to hold your notes?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Or you want to ask questions first?
Go first. I'll kind of just stand over here to the side then.
Handful of notes on prior to, sorry gang. No land trusts in California. You put the L word in the trust name, you won't get title insurance. So don't put the L word in. Pretty simple, right?
No matter how much you tell me to say that, they always say, is this a land trust? I say, no, I'm like, okay. And
It's a property holding trust.
They all call it land trust.
Yeah, but you can't get title insurance with it. You never file a trust. Never give escrow your trust docs. Ask them to get you a trust certificate, a certificate of valid trust from the title company you're buying your title insurance from. It's their document. You just fill it out and sign it. It's no big deal. But they don't need to see your trust. And if your trust documents are written properly, if you divulge the contents of Exhibit A, which is the list of beneficiaries and directors, you have violated your contract, and most of the trust docs that I use say you're fired. So you can't do anything anymore. So you never have the ability to share that unless the man in the black dress says you have to.
If anyone doesn't get that, it took me a while to figure it out. It's the judge.
Yes.
Just let you know, it took me like 4 or 5 times of him saying that. I'll be the translator.
I thought that was obvious.
It wasn't for me like the first 4 or 5 times, so.
I would say there's something weird about a man who puts on a black dress to go to work every day. I like a pauper trustee, which is why I tend to be the trustee on all the trusts that I control. And if you don't know what a pauper is, it's not like in corn. It's pauper like in Old English, someone that has no assets, nothing to take. Disregarded dinner, we talked about that. I really like one agent for all of mine, insurance. Switched to insurance now. I actually have the t-shirt, we say we have the t-shirt, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got the scars. I have the house burns down with no insurance t-shirt and scar set. Because I was not staying on top of my agent. He got unemployed from that, at least by me. And I've got one agent who actually handles everything, has his office person. I can't call her his office girl anymore, that's not politically correct. But I understand she lacks a penis. So, I think she identifies as a female. Anyway, when I miss a payment, she's on the phone. And she says, hey, you want me to make that payment? And I say, yeah. And she says, which card? And it goes on the business card, so I get to get airline miles for all my insurance. Always buy enough insurance that it's painful for the insurance company to tender your policy. So I have full insurance on all of my houses, full insurance on all of my vehicles, and I carry $2 million in umbrella that covers everything that I possess, anything I might happen to possess. It's going to be really, really painful for those 2 insurance companies should they choose to tender the policy and let them come after me. And if you don't know what tender the policy means, Caitlin can answer that question after. I'm off my mark. I get lectured about that a lot. What's the first thing you read when you get your insurance policy? Exclusions. Somebody paid attention last time I said this. Always, any contract, read the exclusions first. If you want to hide something in a contract, what do?
Put it in plain sight.
Bold, all caps. Nobody ever reads those. They read all the 7-point stuff. So if you wanted everybody to read it, put it to 7-point. Well, let's see. Did that. Oh, sub 2 purchasing is a really popular thing right now, right? So you buy a house subject to the mortgage from a homeowner. Do you leave his insurance in place so that it's hidden and you don't get caught for buying subject to, and they don't give you the due on sale? Who's heard that said in a class? Really? Nobody's been in a guru class. That's great. If there are 2 insurance policies on the same claim, the homeowners, and assuming you actually got landlord insurance as well, what's going to happen? They're both going to point fingers at each other. And you're not going to have any coverage. If you buy subject to, You need to get rid of the homeowner's insurance immediately. You need good landlord insurance. Now, I have a habit of paying all my bills myself, so I don't file claims with insurance companies. And I actually had the tenant from hell. There was a hole in every door. There was a hole in every wall. There were kitchen cabinets in a pile in the center of the living room. I mean, he just destroyed everything in the house. And I finally called my guy and said, you know, I never make claims, because with auto insurance, if you make a claim, what are you doing when you make a claim on auto insurance? You're financing a repair, because they're just going to jack the rates up and get your money back plus interest. And that's what I said. And he said, oh no, if it's vandalism and we can source the person that did it, we can say, that tenant, his name is John Smith and he did it, then it does not count against you. So you're not financing that repair. And I thought that was wonderful. And quite frankly, I love my farmer/foremost insurance, because they've always paid me more for the tenant from hell than I have had to spend to fix the house. So those were my notes. You guys did great, by the way. Okay, now you can ask
I told you he does what he wants to do.
Generally.
All right, well, what's one of the most important factors that you think in asset protection?
Oh, well, that one's pretty easy to answer, don't you think?
But I want to know what your opinion is.
What can they take away from you if you don't own anything?
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't know if it's Buffett or one of those other really, really wealthy guys that everybody seems to be impressed with, said, own nothing, control everything. I guess that's J. Paul Getty, maybe. Anyway, one of those guys. I don't know who I'm quoting, but I love the quote. So I'm a pauper on paper. I don't own anything. I like it that way. You can tell from my fancy dress.
All right, and then can you describe the most effective asset protection strategy that you've implemented in your investments?
Well, the one we just said, I don't own anything. That's the best one. Trusts that I control, that I'm trustee of, are generally owned by other trusts that I control. And they're owned by other trusts that I control. And they're owned by another trust that I control. And every trust requires a new court case. So if you have an ambulance chasing attorney who's actually able to get a judgment, to get the man in the black dress to say, you have to tell us who owns this trust, because it fell on the Wicked Witch and her toes were sticking out and that was everything else got squished. You have to tell us who owns the trust. And he comes into your office a few weeks later, you open the file cabinet, you pull out that folder, and you say, the Main Street Trust belongs to the ABC Trust. You put it back in, close the door. He says, well, who owns the ABC Trust? I'm sorry, that's a privileged information. It's private, I'm not allowed to share. Well, I got a court order. Yes. You have a court order that says I have to tell you who owns the Main Street Trust, and I have done that. Have a nice day. When you do that, odds are very good that the ambulance chasing attorney just realized he's going to have to spend a lot of money to find his way through all those entities. One court case per. Who here's been sued? Only two of us? I bet we've got a bunch of bashful people in here. So I've been sued. I've taken my trust documents to court and they have prevailed. And my trust docs last revision, because I've had Randy Hughes, I've had Ward Hannigan, I've had a lot of good trust educators and a lot of marginal trust educators. And the last one, who I really think is the best in the country, is Dykes Bodiford. Yeah, Dykes Bodiford. Assets101.com.
I remember taking trust concepts and I understood 2 words, or 3, personal property trust. It's very advanced.
Hello, my name is Dykes.
Yeah, that was a brutal one for me, but it was good.
Great weekend.
What are some common risks that you or other people have faced?
Common risks, okay. What's the most dangerous thing everyone in this room does? The insurance agent knew the answer. Drive a car. That's the most dangerous thing you do. What are the odds that your sidewalk is actually going to hurt somebody? What are the odds that your house is going to fall on the Wicked Witch? What are the odds that your house is going to collapse in an earthquake? Now, what are the odds that you're going to have a fender bender sometime in the next 10 years? It's probably 10 times the odds of everything else added together. So every time we get behind that wheel, that's the most exposure we have to liability in this country, in my opinion.
So what do you do to protect yourself?
I carry the maximum insurance on all my vehicles because I can't buy the good high quality umbrella policies that I carry unless I carry the maximum insurance on all of my vehicles. So buy good insurance, make it really, really painful for the insurance company to not send a whole cadre of attorneys there to be on your side.
Cool. I'm looking at the other questions. I feel like you're gonna give me the same answer on each one.
Figured out how to ask the same question 3 times?
No, these are actually different questions, but your answer ends up being very similar.
Oh, well. I'm just a boring guy.
Okay, I feel like that's the one that I just... Okay, could you share either a personal experience or, I know you know a lot of people, where asset protection played a crucial role in protecting your investments during a downturn or legal challenge?
Well, like I said, when I was sued by the HOA for doing something that wasn't against the rules, the fact that I didn't own any of those assets made their attorney tell them they were a moron to keep pursuing me, but we did settle that. I wrote a check for $30,000 because if I didn't, they would still be bankrupt today, most likely, except they would have made an assessment on all those poor little old people who live in that neighborhood. So, one of the most painful things that you will do if you are sued, when you are sued, is listen to your attorney tell you you're going to have to write a check. You're going to have to settle this thing. They are wrong, you're right, but you need to bite the bullet, write the check, and settle the deal. And that's hard to do, especially when they're idiots and they're completely in the wrong. I have a lot of friends that have been in a lot of situations. As housing providers, we are a target. The general public thinks we're evil, rich people. They think we get to spend 100% of every rent check they give us. They don't understand mortgages and insurance and home repairs. And somehow it doesn't compute to them that part of their rent check has to fix the air conditioner when they don't change the filter for 2 years. So having good protection is really important, and it's happened a lot in my career.
Thank you. Okay, last one, and I'm going to open up to you guys because you probably have more interesting questions than mine. What about for new people? What are you seeing, like, what do they make? Like, what kind of mistakes do they make when they're getting into asset protection?
Cool. You want something with a different answer for a change other than buy good insurance. Many people, when they're getting started, spend entirely too much money and time on asset protection. If you own nothing, what can they take away from you? If you own your personal residence in the state of California, how much of, and you have to file bankruptcy, how much equity do you get to take with you?
All of it?
If you file bankruptcy,
It's a number, I will tell you that it's a number.
0.
$600,000 in equity. $600,000 in equity on your home in the state of California if you file bankruptcy. How many people have $600,000 equity in their personal residence?
I have like 300.
You need to strip some equity out of those houses. Get a HELOC. Put that money to work. There's no reason to have that much money sitting idle. Of course, my wife would have raised her hand too, but that's a different conversation. But it's close. I mean, just because we paid it down and because it's grown a lot. But a lot of people waste a lot of time. I just killed my last 2 LLCs because of the Corporate Transparency Act, which is on hold right now, thank goodness. Because one of our good business organizations sued and won. Of course, they've decided that the judgment against the CTA only accounts to that one organization and any members that are part of it, and they say everybody else still has to file. Quite frankly, I'm more scared of the government than I am of the Wicked Witch's sister because my house fell on her sister.
Any questions from the audience?
What did he just say?
Can anyone translate?
About what?
That last little spiel on the law.
Somebody,
So-
they were right, but it doesn't matter because we're part of that. People have to approve it.
So the Corporate Transparency Act, so the Financial Crimes Organization, that's the part of the government that's in charge of making financial crimes happen and creating financial crimes, has the Corporate Transparency Act. And they were sued by a nice organization, and the judge said, you're right, this law is unconstitutional. So suddenly everyone is crying, the law is unconstitutional. It's going to get appealed, of course. It'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. But it's interesting because the Financial Crimes Department of the government, being good at making criminal activity, said, no, that judgment only applies to members of that organization that sued and prevailed. Not like every other that it's in that territory or that district. They say only that organization. So it's not settled yet. But the way the law is written right now, you have to expose everyone who owns over 25% of any entity that files with the state. LLCs, corporations, S Corp, C Corp, all those organizations, you got to strip down to your skivvies, stand in front of the government, and they're going to say, pull your shorts down, let's see what you got down there. Go ahead.
Can we join that organization and get that?
$350, yes.
All right.
Was that clear?
Yes, that was better.
Good. Go ahead, Mike.
So you hold your houses in trusts.
Mm-hmm.
How many layers for each house do you have?
As many as it takes to piss off the attorney.
How many?
Enough.
Have you taken this class?
Yeah.
Did you pay attention?
He talks about that.
Okay.
Al,
So Andy, so if you have properties already in trust that are recorded, can you set up a new trust to offset the trust that's been recorded?
Did you record the entire trust doc?
Yes. Why that?
Did you expose Exhibit A?
I have to see.
Did you realize that, are you using my docs or somebody else's docs?
Somebody else stops.
Okay. You may have disqualified yourself as trustee if the trust docs are written properly. I would literally spend the money to sell that house. I would file a grant deed to a different trust.
So get a grantee.
Yes, not a quit, a grant deed.
Trust. So the grantee.
Trust to trust.
Trust to trust.
New trustee, new trust name. Do it right this time. Yeah.
You can change the trustee on it.
Okay, but that's not the problem. The problem is he exposed the beneficiaries.
Oh.
The trustee is out there. He's public. He, she, it. That's the public face. That they are out there. They are the owner. They own that asset for the benefit of the trust and the trustee and the beneficiaries. Yeah,
So we got this from our beloved friend, Mr. Turner, a while back, so I think it should be okay then.
Jay?
No, William Turner, Bill Turner.
Oh, Bill Turner.
Yeah,
Maybe.
okay. I was looking at it first thing in the morning.
I've never recorded a trust. The most qualified trust educator in the state of California tells a story of his habit around the first of the year, every year, to go through his files and thin them down. Everyone here that has been through a purchase of a property, how many copies of the purchase contract do you end up with in that file folder by the time you're done? How many copies of the various HUDs? How many copies of various leases? Think about how thick that file can get, right? So his habit is he files everything in there, and then once a year he spreads that file out on a table, and he gets rid of and he shreds all the duplicate documents that are in that file and get it down to what it should be, a 1/4 inch. He was going through one, and he could not find the trust documents for that trust. And he said, well, that's weird. I must have just not filed it. I'm going to go to the computer and I'll print off another copy because I know it's saved in the computer. So he went to the computer and he couldn't find it in the computer either. Somehow he had bought that house, rehabbed that house, and sold that house, and had never bothered printing out the trust documents for that trust that owned the house. Those of you that pay attention understand the moral of the story is nobody gets to see the paperwork, nobody wants to see the paperwork, nobody needs to see that paperwork, except the man in the black dress, and only if he wants it.
Or she.
It's not weird for a she to wear a dress.
Question, you said don't record the trust. Do you record a trust certification? That's the only thing you record?
Well, you don't record a trust certification, you just provide it to the title insurance company who's going to insure the deed, and the deed says that property belongs to Andy Teasley, trustee of the Main Street Trust, dated when it is. Unless you do it last name first.
Ryan.
Why do you put your name on the trust when you can put an entity on the trust and make it even more difficult?
Because that's the way I choose to do business. I like to be able to sign things. I own nothing. If you want to get a judgment against me, I will laugh all the way to the courthouse. Get a judgment. What are you going to take when you don't own nothing? What can they get?
All right, now that everyone's brain is fried, does anyone have have a question? Okay, it's probably the one more after this, so if you have one, pop your hand up.
So when you're getting started and you're flipping stuff and you've made no money, I know you said if you own nothing, but I now have this property in my hands and I'm currently working with it, so technically I own it.
You took title to it personally?
I don't know.
Well, whose name's on the deed?
I'm imagining. This is not real.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
So-
I go
so-
out, I make a deal. This is happening.
Title it to a
now.
trust.
Okay, so just have a trust ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
How long? What's involved in creating a trust? But here's another trick question. What's the biggest variable in creating a trust? Someone who hasn't actually taken my class. What's the biggest variable in cost when you create a trust?
Paper.
Knowledge and.
Oh, the L word. Land?
Whether you use factory inkjet cartridges or reconditioned inkjet cartridges.
Paper.
Well, the paper, the ink, paper's all the same, but sometimes I guess you could print on the backside of something that would probably make it cheaper. It's a contract, that's all it is. Yes.
Last question.
So if you don't own your personal property, the trust owns it, then you technically are the renter and you can say you're paying rent and file that with the IRS. You're basically a tenant. Is that
Okay.
correct? Is that correct?
Sounds good to me. I'm not a CPA, so I don't know how to answer tax questions.
Okay.
I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night either. Oh, nobody watches TV, or it's been so long since I did, that's obsolete. What's
There's a song that has it.
I'd walk a mile for 'em.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It is 8 o'clock, and I try to end the meeting in a timely manner. If you do have